The other thing, I had a dude that I used to play basketball with, man. Me and him used to hoop. When you ask about the secrecy of it,
yeah,
me and him used to hoop. And because the punks at the time didn't live directly on the wing with us, right? You know, some niggas could keep it secret. Now you will hear about it, but some niggas could keep it secret. But a lot of this would go on at night. A lot of this would go on at night. And we had a punk that ended up getting moved over there. And so if you, and let's say you don't get on like that, but you in the cell with the punk, right? But you not homophobic and you don't get down. So let's say they put the punk in the cell with like a white boy or something like that. They put the punk in the cell with somebody that ain't gonna victimize him and ain't indulgent. But what niggas would do when it become nighttime, they'll pay the white boy to sleep in their cell and they'll sleep in the cell with the punk. Like they'll switch out. Or if it ain't nighttime, after breakfast. So we go to breakfast at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Okay, so if we go to breakfast, you pay the dude to switch out with him, and you go in the cell, and he go in your cell, but then you get to come back out at 5 when it's work time. So it was one of them situations where I was coming back late from breakfast. I was coming back late for breakfast for whatever reason. Meaning like the people that I went with had already went, they already came back, they was already in their cell. I was coming back late from breakfast and I happened to hit one row because I had to go get somebody. And man, you know, the rows, the cells go from 1 to 36. And man, I go down one row, not thinking that again, it ain't no moaning, ain't no hollering, ain't none of this going on how you would think in the, you know, in a free world kind of scenario. Yeah, this blasphemy is happening in silence. Do you hear what I'm telling you? Like everybody inside. So man, the dude that I used to hoop with, I walked down that motherfucking run, man, and I mean he in there giving this boy the blues, man. And me and him locked eyes. I was like, oh. And, you know, I went out my way, but I saw what I saw. You know what I'm saying? To where I was supposed to go past his cell, past the cell to get something. I never made it. I never delivered what I needed delivered. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I ended up coming back the other way. And this was a cool dude, man. This was a brother that if you see today, you don't know, you wouldn't even, and I knew then, man, that prison, those two situations, let me know that prison is a very wicked psychological place that break a lot of black men, man. I mean, it breaks them. It put us in the condition where we end up liking lima beans or we end up liking ass, man.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy because you got to see that man again. Like, does he like bring up like the object? Is this?
No, so here it is. He come out. You know, we got to go to work. We got to play basketball together later, right? Rule number 1 in prison, man. Rule number 1, man. I need to write this in my book. About 10 business rules I learned in prison, right? Number 1 rule in prison: mind your business, man. Mind your motherfucking business, man. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Ask no questions, get told no lies.
Told no lies. So when I came out, it was understood. That was his business, man. Yeah, shit ain't had nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. That was his business. And if I went about talking his business, then he may have to deal with that. Me and him would have had some problems. I don't know if I'm making any sense here.
Yeah, you make loud and clear. Loud and clear.
That was his business. So now it wasn't no discussion about his business at all. Yeah, when he got picked, I got picked that evening. He picked me, I picked him, and we went on hooping.
There you go. There you go. Now we always see how prison, of course, puts us in a scenario where you look at flaws in the system, to where, you know, you watch a Shawshank Redemption, you watch, these other Hollywood movies where dudes digging tunnels and trying to escape or looking escape routes or trying to find a flaw in the system. And I know everyone that's been there for a particular amount of time, you start seeing patterns in the guards, and you start seeing there's holes in the system I could probably get out. We just saw what happened with the guys in the New Orleans
Right.
jail, to where they slowly dug a hole behind the toilet, and they left messages for the COs like too easy. You know what I'm saying? They let them know. So did you ever either one plot try to think of an escape, and if so, how would you have done it? And also give me a take on the New Orleans situation, the 10 guys that got up out, or 9 guys that got up out.
Right. Well, I'm gonna tell you, man. Now, prison is psychological, man, and I think everybody in prison think about escaping in some kind of way. Do they put together a plan? No. I told my mama that. I told my mama one day. My mama came visit me. I was about 6 years into the 8-year sentence. I say, Mama, if it's a hole in that fence, man, I'm gonna run through that motherfucker. Motherfucker put a hole in it, I'm gonna run through it. Do you hear what I'm telling you? She say, nah, baby, you better patch it up. You better patch that hole up. Don't run through no hole. But that's how psychologically traumatizing prison is, right? That you just want to break free. You want to get out of the conformity that they done force you into. So I think everybody fantasize about escaping when they're in prison. But why people don't actually put together a plan and do it is because psychologically, they done broke you down and realize that it ain't worth it. So a motherfucker will be in there with a life sentence and never even thinking about escaping, never thinking about coming up with a plan to run, never thinking about doing it, because it works twofold. We just saw what happened in New Orleans, and they wasn't in prison, they was in jail. One of the people had double life sentence, right? Broke out and ran. I think he's still out on the run. But think about this. You breaking out of jail or you breaking out of prison to go nowhere. You break out, or I'm gonna say it like this, Joe. You make it to your destination and you ain't got nowhere to go.
Mm.
I mean, just think about that. Your destination is to break out. You make it there and you ain't got nowhere to go. That's the prime example of what happened with those people in New Orleans. Why? Because psychologically, as prisoners, as people, we don't think of the next step. We thinking that getting out is the win, when that is when the game started.
Mm.
Yeah, breaking out of prison is when the game started. And those dudes that broke out of prison, they broke out of prison to go nowhere. Few of them caught at the bus station. Few of them caught at their auntie house, their people house. We have no plan once we escape, and that's why we stay in prison. That is the same thing for slavery. You know what I'm saying? Harriet Tubman said, I would have freed many more slaves if they knew they was free. They didn't know where they was going to go.
We didn't have social media where you know what's going on in the North or anywhere. All you knew was what was around you.
You only knew what was around you. And so that's just what it is. So if you got a life sentence and you say you're going to break out and you're going to form a plan to break out, that's why most people, when they break out, they end up getting caught or they end up dying and killing themselves or killing people because they don't have no plan. You leave in one prison, which you got to understand what is a prison is. A prison is a system of controls. Some prisons are more restricted than others. Some institutions are more restricted than others. It's no different from your job, right? Your job is a form of prison. It's a system of control. So you leave a system of controls, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and run out here to the free world to another systems of controls that you wasn't successful in, that got you put in prison. And now that you ran and escaped, you think you finna figure it out now? No, you're not finna figure it out. And that's why it's so dangerous when people escape prison and they want these people caught, because they can't fit into society. All they could do is commit more crimes.
Yeah, no, you said it best
when create more victims.
Yeah, when you started off, you say you become property of the state. that means you're no longer a citizen. So it's like you thinking you could go back and become a citizen after you're free. You technically you're still property of
Right, right,
the
right,
state.
right. You property of the state. But what I'm saying is this: when you was a citizen, you didn't have it figured out. That's why you became property. So when you break free, you think you're gonna figure it out again. You don't got it figured out. That's why you in there. Right? So you're not gonna figure it out now that you on the run from there. Yeah, you're not gonna figure it out. And this is why they are considered armed, dangerous people. People like you need to tell if they go to jail, and if you help them, you're gonna get in trouble. Like, there's no freedom. The only freedom we can only have, me, you, a person that's doing time, is freedom of mind, the peace in mind that you have to understand your situation and understand how to navigate to it. We are all stuck in systems of control, but you can find freedom in understanding those systems and growing within those systems, right? That's it. Some people say the most freest people in our society are bums, or the people that live under the bridge or that live on Skid Row. Say they are the most freest people that we know, right? Because they refuse to be a part of the systems of control that makes them go to work, pay rent, pay bills, pay this, and they find peace in being under the bridge and living in those conditions, which maybe me and you might not accept, but for them, that's their peace. Meaning, like, even if you gave them what we have, they're going to find their way back over there.
So, as a hypothetical, if you were to plot some type of escape, did you see a hole in the system that did you see a way that you could possibly work your way out of any of those units?
Of course. I think any system can be exploited. The minute man puts his mind to it, he could go to the moon. And a motherfucker sat on this earth and looked at a circle in the sky and figured out a way how to go there. You hear me? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they give you enough time to think about it, and then they all conform to their rules. So that's how it's able to be exploited. Point blank, period. You can get out. You can figure a way out of it, right? And the places that you can't figure your way out of it, you can figure that it ain't a way out. Like, yeah, but you gotta look at the system long enough to understand it, because you can get in a situation to where you can't get out.
No, that's real. That's real. Yeah. So again, how would you have, if you were to say, let me do something? How would you have gotten up out of that mug?
I mean, again, first, the only way you could get out is like kind of like what they did. They had
that's
help.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah, it comes to find out they had help. You got to remember, some people are willing to take the risk with you. Another way of getting out is that you got to put yourself in position to get out. When you see many escapes and many people do it, they put themselves in position, and then they take advantage or exploit the position that they put in, and that's a position of trust, right? So the first way to do it is to get the system to trust you, or the people that's running the system to trust you, so you can manipulate it enough to where you can break free or run out. But that's the problem. You put all that energy into the front end of getting out and getting the trust and developing the system to where you gave no thought to where you go after you out, after you free. Yeah, you have nowhere to go. That's why I say niggas is escaping to nowhere. So then now let's use the New Orleans people as an example. As you being somebody and never been to prison, you don't understand what they have done. Of course, you understand that by escaping, you are subject to more time, which is a mandatory 15-year sentence, right, for breaking out. And it's a mandatory 15 years because they want to deter people from wanting to break out. So if you had 5 years, or you had 2 years, or 3 years, now you facing 15 years. If you had a life sentence, you just facing an additional 15 years. That's just what it is. But here's the thing. Once you break out, once you violate the trust of the system or the position that they put you in, and you escape, now that the people that are being captured are back in prison, they are no longer privy to any positions. Now you got to stay in the cell 23 hours a day and only come out the shower. That's it. So Before you had a 3-year sentence or an 8-year sentence, you would be able to go and work here, work there. Now you can't even be around other people because you have embarrassed the system. And that's the part of it that people like yourself don't see. Now you are a flight risk to the system, and you are put in PC and you are put in restrictive custody for the rest of your time.
That's right. That's right. Man, I get it.
You see that?
Yeah.
See, we don't see that. So when I see them niggas escape, and I see them niggas running, and I see them niggas right on the wall too easy, I'm like, oh nah, them niggas are fucked all the way up. Yeah, now unless you gonna escape and you gonna run and you gonna choose to die out there. Now we have seen that where most people escape and they die in the streets. They not going back. But if you plan on returning, oh man, you just created hell on earth for real for you, man.
Damn, man, that's county jail shit. Okay. I like when we have these conversations, it's so much more I want to talk to you about, but I like to probably break it off and we'll probably do a part 2, 3,
That's
4,
cool.
5. Hell, I don't know. But as we have these conversations, I want to get, I always try to end with just words of wisdom. There's a lot of dudes, they call them YNs out here now. They people that was a younger CEO Hockley, that was taking penitentiary chances trying to get by. And again, we don't glorify these stories, but we're trying to educate people what's going on so they'll know. So someone who watching this might say, hey, this ain't a spot I really want to be in. I like my freedom a little too much, versus that little $15,000 bag I could have got for, robbing my partner or whatever. So if you don't mind giving them like some words of wisdom as far as why they should not have to go ever sit down and do that man's time.
Right, man. The words of wisdom or advice that I would give any Black person growing up is this, man. Prison is slavery. Prison is not a place you would want to be. And the only way you can escape prison or going to prison is not doing things that will put you in prison. You think you have it figured out, but you don't understand what's on the other side of that ball. And you can do something that can ruin your life forever. When I was 17 years old, I was committed to ruining my life regardless of the outcome because I didn't have much. I didn't have anything worth living for, right? I didn't have kids. I didn't have my own house. I didn't have my own car. I didn't have my own means other than being young, wild, and free. Well, you got to understand, man, if you plan on living long, it comes a time where I turn 35 years old and I have my first son. And I realized, damn, I was willing to die at 17 and not see this day. You got to understand mentally in your mind what you're willing to give up and what you're willing to risk to prove that you somebody or to prove that you qualified to be a slave. Because going to prison is being a slave. Now, a lot of young YNs want to prove that they qualified to be a slave, and that ain't the way to go, man. You know what I'm saying? You was put on this earth to be way greater than the institution that they put you in and the places that they want to victimize you. And another thing that woke me up about prison was this. The people that you got to answer to and the people that make the rules for you ain't never endured none of the shit you went through, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you in there with the people that got bullied as the guards, as the wardens, people that, people that you wouldn't respect in real life. So don't put yourself in that situation. And if you find yourself in that situation, then fix yourself, man, because you walk through them doors, man, unbeknownst to yourself, man. So that would be my advice, man.
Man,
play the long game. Don't play the short game.
There you go, man. I appreciate that, man. Words of wisdom right there for real, man. Well, I got to say, man, again, thank you for these stories. Thank you for your time in regards to telling them. Again, we're not trying to glorify it, but again, it's just for educational purposes. We're just documenting your story and probably, testing it against those other inmates. Because again, I know sometimes you don't have people to talk to in regards to, those sitting down. So these are great conversations to have to kind of share those stories. So I appreciate you, CEO Hockley, formerly known as Kryptonite. Until the next one, man. I appreciate it, man. This is Prison Stories 101.
Salute.